This is Blayne Reed, IPM agent for Hale, Swisher, and Floyd County with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension. We're going to talk a little bit today about scouting for wireworms. Wireworms primarily in cotton. Not everyone thinks they have problems with wireworms in cotton, but we certainly seem to in my territory. Now, wireworms, what we're talking about two primary species. There may be more, but we're talking about the true wireworm, which are click beetles. We're also going to be talking about the false wireworm, which we might see some adults of those guys here out in the field directly. Now, wireworms in cotton, they don't prefer cotton as a primary host, but when we look at a field, we'll have weeds or things like that, winter weeds, that will die off or be plowed out or be sprayed with a burn down treatment, and then we'll plant properly behind that burn down treatment with the wireworms. We have nothing to eat and they'll move to cotton as a survival instinct. The damage wireworms are going to be causing aren't something that we can necessarily fix once they're found. All the control measures are preventative. So if you're going into an area that might have wireworms in it, or you suspect you might have wireworms, you need to go ahead and use those preventative measures. Things like insecticidal seed treatments, your standard coming with your cottonseed, do have an impact. You're going to expect about 65–75% control there. It's very hard to tell exactly where wireworms are going to show up, but we do have a general knowledge of where they may be more likely. They should be worse following a grass crop where they built up a population. You never even noticed them in, say, wheat or corn the year before. Also in a dry year following a wet year. They would have had abundant food sources, a lot of roots to feed on, and now the only fields and roots that are available are irrigated areas. I think they do move around a lot more, and they can find the water and those fields and come in behind them and cause quite a bit of damage. Now, wireworms are also, in terms of damage, the icing to the cake sometimes on finally eliminating a cotton stand or preventing it from establishing. Now, what we'll need to do to check these guys, because all your measures are preventative, I do recommend that we come and start scouting for wireworms 3 to 5 days behind the cotton planter. That's before emergence, to evaluate to see if the population is impacting cotton stands. So when we're talking about scouting for wireworms in cotton, we're not really looking for the actual worms themselves. The larvae are definitely going to be subterranean, and what we're after, looking for the damage, is still underground as well before the cotton is emerged. So when we go out here, we're going to go out much like a farmer, looking to see how his seed is in moisture and things like that. So we're going to be evaluating many things that involve cotton emergence while we look for the wireworms, and we need to come back on a schedule and look at these fields 2 or 3 times before they're actually emerged, primarily because if wireworms are an issue, if they're taking out a stand, the faster you can find the problem, the faster you can do something about it, which inevitably means a replant. The faster we can get back in and solve the issue, the better we can be. Okay, now I'm definitely going to need to get down here to check for wireworms and other issues. I have just a simple screwdriver. It's what I like to use to try to planter track and find these seedlings. And it's been a rough year in Swisher County, so we are going to have to break a little bit of this topsoil and look just like a farmer would, checking his seed for these seedlings that should be pushing up. I've got color here for cottonseed. I like to dig down with my screwdriver and pull this seedling up for a quick evaluation. So here we are with a plant that we pulled up out of the field that definitely has wireworm problems on it. We have a definite bite here, injury, and several coming up the taproot of this cotton plant. Now, if this plant was in better condition, say warmer soil temperature, no crust, it might survive, even though it will have more seedling disease to deal with the seedling diseases coming in through the open gaping wounds. Now, in this condition with a thick crust and cool soil temperatures, I'm probably not going to give this plant much of a chance. Now, period, if a wireworm were to bite right here in the crook or the apical meristem, that plant's definitely finished and has no chance of making it. Okay, now we can tell some easy telltale signs on a plant that's already established if we have some wireworm action going on in the field. It might clue you in that we need to take a closer look. At these cotyledon leaves, I've got a gash right here and a few little bites right here from a wireworm. Those are telltale signs in this area as well that there's wireworm activity in this field. So here we are in our same Swisher County field. We're trying to determine if this is going to be a viable field or not. What we have here is we've measured off 1/1000th of an acre on this producer's 30-inch rows. It's pretty easy to calculate your row spacing in 1/1000th of an acre. But basically, research has proven that in this 1/1000th of an acre, to be profitable in West Texas, we need about 27 plants, averaged across the field with gaps of less than a foot. In this area today, we just don't have it. In fact, we've got some pretty big gaps, and it gets better in other parts of the field, so we've got to average together and decide what we're going to do.